Well, no worries. Good morning and good evening for you. Thank you for
Yes,
taking the time to do this today. I really appreciate it. How are you? How's your day been going?
it's been good. I've just finished work. It is 8:15 p.m. here, so I'm looking forward to going home and relaxing.
So you're not actually at home yet.
Sorry?
You're not actually at home yet. You're not made at home yet.
No, I've just taken up the spare room at work, to be honest, to do this straight after I finished.
Oh, I'm sorry. I will try not to keep you
No,
too
no,
long then, of course.
that's okay. I'm more than happy to do this. This is really cool.
It is an important period as well. Of course, we are just a matter of days away from the release of the EP Icon out this Friday, the 19th of May. How you
Yes.
feeling? How you feeling right now, this close to it? You still kind of buzzing about it, or you're at that stage where you just want to get it out?
It's definitely an in-between. Like the record's been done for a very long time. We've been sitting on it for a long time before we started to release the first singles from it. And I did have a feeling of being like it wasn't fresh anymore to my ears. But now when we started releasing the songs and hearing other people's reactions to them and stuff, it excited me a bit more than I had prior. So it felt a bit fresher than it had been. So and this close to the release day, I'm just super excited just for the rest of it to be out, you know.
How long's it been done?
We've been we did the final tracking of it January last year. January
Wow.
22 was the last time we went to the studio to finish recording it.
Well, I have to ask then, what's been the wait? Why have you waited so long from that point to now to release it?
Basically a lot of the behind the scenes stuff. We didn't start shooting any of the music videos for it until April last year. So we waited until I don't think it was intentionally, but we waited
Hmm.
until it was fine. It was completely finished recording, and then we booked the videos in after that. And then other than that, we got really busy with playing shows at the end of last year. Our back half of last year filled out really thoroughly with lots of shows. So we were putting all our time and energy into those, which I think like I'm really glad we did that because I think now that we are releasing this new music, it's going out to a bigger audience than it would have been if we didn't play all of those shows.
Do you feel like it was quite important to kind of play those shows as well? Bear in mind that that was coming at the tail end of a long and difficult past few years where playing live and getting into venues was a major difficulty. So did you kind of feel like you had to play those shows?
Yeah, definitely. I think it did feel really important for us to do all of those shows and take all those opportunities because, as you said, it was like shows for the last like 2 or 3 years prior to that were really scarce, and we released our first EP in May of 2021. So
Mm.
it's the EPs are essentially 2 years apart, which is really cool. But we played a few shows around that release, but then the pandemic cut all the rest of our plans. So we didn't get to play all of the songs from that EP across Australia. So when all those opportunities started flowing in, yeah, we felt like it was really important. We took them all.
Your debut EP May 2021, lack of live shows, it would have killed a lot of bands kind of who were starting up. It really
Mhm.
would. What was the drive and encouragement for you guys to push on, basically?
Um, we we learned so much about songwriting and about being the band we wanted to be during the writing process of Wide Awake, the prior EP.
Hmm.
And so when we had finished working on that, when the music was completely done, we came away from that really inspired and eager to write more music straight off the bat. Because yeah, I think our producer Chris played a massive part in I wouldn't say educating, but he taught us a lot and inspired us a lot. And I think we grew heaps when we were writing those songs with him. So when we finished, as I said just before, like we came away from that wanting to write, just keep writing. And I think coming into the Icon material, I think being that eager and inspired to write heaps of music was a big factor in why there's so many varying sounds on the Icon EP. Yeah, so I think that's what drove us the most. We were just awfully inspired to just keep writing songs.
Inspired to the level where you could have potentially started with a debut album, or were you always in the mind of doing EPs, particularly at the start?
We've never toyed with the idea of a full-length album. It's definitely, whenever it crosses my mind, I definitely get very scared. It seems like a very daunting task. I think we just definitely didn't feel ready, I think, to do that. We did have enough ideas to make a full length, but we didn't feel ready. We didn't feel like we were ready for that time in our careers yet. And I mean, just this close to Icon being out, and I guess once it's out, you want to start thinking of the next thing. But even now, it's still daunting, and I would say we don't feel ready still. But we'll have to wait and see, once the full EP's out, to see how it does and see how we feel, a bit in the future.
Well, of course, and it's almost an expectation that you would have moved on musically to some degree as we approach the release of a new EP. Even more so when we go taking into account it's all the way back in January when it was effectively January last year when it was effectively finished. But have you found out yourselves that you are moving on musically, not necessarily a change in sound or something like that, but more just what you've learned and what you've picked up along the way?
Not really. I am the complete opposite of what happened after Wide Awake has happened this time around, where I've barely found time to write more music since we finished writing the Icon material. So the complete opposite. I think Noah's fairly similar in the fact that we haven't gone and written a whole bunch of new music yet. I think we got quite a bit busy in our personal lives, and just as I said, the shows as well that we were playing last year really filled out our time. So yeah, it's been the complete opposite this time, in fact. But I have had a massive urge and eagerness to write songs in the last few months. But it's just been getting all the nitty gritty behind the scenes stuff, all the extra content stuff for this EP ready, and also just been like in my personal life, has been working a bunch at my day job. Between those two things, it's been really hard to find time. But once the EP's out, I'm hoping the schedule can clear up a bit and we can look at writing new material. And as I said, I'm very excited to do so. I have no idea what it's going to sound like though.
Well, that's the excitement, really, isn't it? When you start to experiment and go down that path yourself. But of course, right now, the focus has to be completely on Icon, pushing it as hard as possible. But I want to talk then specifically about you guys, Days Like These, and really a brief origin story, if you would.
Yes. The band Days Like These formed while the members were in high school, myself and Noah included. In those early days, we cycled through a bunch of different members because it was very casual, and you know what it's like in high school. People are eager one day and the next day they're not. And like prior to this band, I personally didn't have any experience playing music with other musicians, so it was so much learning. About I'd say a year into the band that in its current form existing, Noah joined. And then since then, we still cycle through a few different other members. And after Wide Awake, we had a couple people leave. And it was just myself, Noah, and our guitarist Russell, who we're still best friends with, which is really cool. We said, we're just going to roll with us three because no one else seems to stick.
Yeah.
And then Russell ended up parting ways, which is, you know, he wanted to do his own journey, which is really cool. But we applied that same thought process to Noah and I. Were like, it doesn't seem to stick with anyone else, and we don't want to spend time and energy trying to make it work when history has proven that it may not. And I think it was daunting at first, but I was soon surprised about how much it didn't affect the band in terms of, like, I was scared about practicality, like in a live setting. And image wise, we still wanted to present ourselves as a band, but with two people, it's, you know, there are bands with two people in it. Otherwise, they're known as like a duo or whatnot. But
yes,
I was surprised about how easy it was, and it didn't take long for it to feel comfortable. And it feels really good. Just with Noah and I now, we're both on the same page, driven, have the exact same vision, and yeah, it feels good.
We're talking about comfort then. How quickly did you find your comfortable sound, and did it involve a lot of experimentation early on?
Yeah, I think it did. I think we always wanted to have a kind of a plethora of different sounds, and experiment in a lot of different avenues. But I think we lacked the tools to do so. And I know we went through a stage while we were writing material for Wide Awake where we really struggled with songwriting in general, but also on top of that struggled with making songs unique. Meaning a lot of those demo songs we had sounded very similar. And that was one thing that our producer Chris really helped us with, as I mentioned earlier. Really, we learned a lot from him, a lot of songwriting, a lot of production wise. Yeah, learning how to unlock those like that part of our creative brain that we seem to not have the exact key, if that makes sense. And part of me still feels like I don't know what our signature sound is, because we've always written quite varying styles of songs. There's nothing like I feel like Icon is both cohesive and then also quite diverse. And in general, I don't know if I could pinpoint our exact sound, you know. I mean, what do you think when you listen to it?
Oh, well, I'm smiling because it ultimately comes down to this. It's genre bending stuff. And it's laughable because ultimately when it comes down to it, we almost have to pigeonhole you to some degree just to make it easier for an audience to potentially read one or two words that say, yeah, okay, I'll check this out. And obviously you kind of get lumbered into the very broad alt rock, alternative rock scene, which is so broad it doesn't really mean anything. But for me to describe you as that, it's like it has to come with so many asterisks and so many caveats and brackets and say this. I like the term genre bending, going with no expectations, come out with something. It's interesting that you say Icon being both cohesive and a wide array of ideas too, because it almost feels like a damn fine introduction into what days like these are as a whole. Because of course, you do have the first EP, but if people didn't catch that one and hear this one, and Icon gets a lot more push and a lot more wider spread notice, this works as a really strong introduction to the variety that exists around.
Definitely. I'm really glad that it's as diverse as it is, because like collectively Noah and I listen to so much varying music, and we want to take inspiration from all those different avenues, and we don't want to, like, it's very satisfying that people like yourself like to use the word genre bending, because that, like, I would say it's our ambition, but it's not really hard for us to achieve, because that's just the way we want it to be. You know what I mean?
You're not purposely trying to do it. It just is. It's just a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Did you, going back to the origins of Icon specifically, did you have at the time a particular vision for what you wanted this release to be? You knew it was your follow-up EP. You knew it was the second release you were going to do. Did you have a clear picture of what you wanted it to be?
I think in my head, I always envisioned it being, so like, Wide Awake's here, and it's got a few different flavors and a few different palettes on it. But what we wanted to do with Icon is take all of that and just broaden it and have even more diversity and varying inspiration and sounds that we encapsulate. Yeah, basically take those foundations of a few different types of music and genres and run further with them. In every direction. I think Icon has, well, it definitely has our heaviest song and material, and it also has at the end of it a real pop rock banger, I would say. Basically, just wanted to expand in every direction.
You've grown as an artist, so you want to showcase that as much as anything else. Can you identify anything particular that helped kind of shape what the final product, the full thing, would actually be? Things that occurred along the way, be them personal or professional?
Personally, I know all of us, I think, opened up a lot of different, how do I say, we just over time started listening to more and more diverse music, and we're inspired by that and wanted to implement all of it. I definitely think us as fans of music also like when other bands are as diverse and unique as we like to think we are. Like bands like Bring Me the Horizon, you know, they can do, I feel like they can release nearly anything they want and people won't be surprised. You know, they've over their career, they've done so many different types of music. Bands like Enter Shikari, like, cycle through so many different genres in their music, I think, as well. Yeah, it feels, in general, it felt really natural. We didn't go into it with much expectation or idea of what we wanted the final thing to be in the end. We just, as I've said, like, we came out of the writing process for Wide Awake, where we were very, very inspired. We just wrote whatever we wanted, and Chris, our producer, who we worked with both on Wide Awake and Icon, just kind of helped us consolidate all of those ideas.
Contrast the process for Icon, the writing, recording, production, everything that goes into it, to Wide Awake. Was this overall a much more enjoyable experience for you? Yes,
undoubtedly, 100%.
Is there anything
before, sorry?
I was just going to say, I think you were going to say it anyway, but I was going to say, is there anything specific that you can identify that made it so enjoyable?
Yeah, definitely. I think I mentioned earlier that we had a lot of trouble songwriting for Wide Awake. Definitely getting stuck in ruts, stuck in cycles, and a lot of our material was sounding the same. And we had the complete opposite problem with Icon, where there was moments where we were like, is this like too far, like, left of field? But that was why it was so enjoyable. We wrote whatever we wanted to. and we didn't make ourselves conform to any sort of particular genre or sound. And yeah, just not having those roadblocks, feeling free to do what we wanted to do and what we enjoyed listening to personally. We were more comfortable with Chris this time around. So like in just like a general sense, like there was more playfulness and banter between us, and you know, making jokes and whatnot. Whereas we were coming out of our shell quite a bit on Wide Awake because we hadn't really spent much time with him or met him prior. So, and I think that maybe you might be able to hear that in the music. It's a bit more. There's definitely lots of serious moments, but like I think overall it's a bit more of a fun sounding record. Yeah.
So No Limits on Imagination is obviously incredible, and it's what every artist dreams of to a certain degree. But ultimately, whether we like it or not, you're gonna have to always make difficult decisions. Was there a lot of difficult decisions in regards to stuff that needed to be cut, snipping of stuff that was just too eclectic, too wild, or too weird to even for you guys?
Yeah. We released a single in between Wide Awake and Icon. I'm not sure if you know of it, but it's called Luna. And we wrote that song when we were writing the rest of the Icon material. And that's obviously, if you've heard it, it's a through and through pop song. It's got pop, like it's got electronic drums. It doesn't have an acoustic drum kit or anything. And we really thought about it quite a bit if we wanted to release it or not. But we, at the end, we just decided, you know, screw it. It can't hurt too much. And we took a gamble and released it. I'm still to this day, I can't really say how I think the release went. I think it really dumbfounded a lot of people coming off Wide Awake, where I would say there is an overarching theme of like, I would say on the radio friendly end of like the metalcore spectrum.
Yep.
But it was still such a different sound. But that song in particular, as I said, we wrote it with the rest of the Icon material. That was the song that we're like, is this too far? And then we were like, screw it, and we went the whole mile. We made all the visuals bright and like commercial and pop inspired. We basically kind of like made a little mockery of ourselves. And like, if we're gonna do this, we might as well just lean fully into it. And I'm super glad we did. And like again, it just showed us in a different light, and you know, allowed us to not be pigeonholed, I would say. That was definitely sorry.
No, carry on. Just carry on.
But I was just going to summarize and say that was definitely the big moment of you know, is this too far? That was the height of that feeling.
Well, I'm glad you released it as well, as I haven't heard it. And whether or not it's to my particular taste or not, you're the artist, you put out what you want to do, and if you enjoy it, that's all that matters. And there has been a positive response to it. But also, it's so early on in your careers that, as you said several times, like, who knows what you are and what you want to be. It's not like you're 10 albums deep and have stuck to one specific sound a la Slayer or something, and now you're throwing in a pop banger which is going to, you know, isolate a fan base. That's not the case at all.
Yeah, I'm that's a great point, and I do reflect on that a bunch. Like, I have reflected on that a few times. And I'm super glad we are doing all of this experimentation this early on in our careers. Like, Noah and I are in it for the long haul, and we know we've got so far to go, but it is really cool to know that we're at this early on, we're just pushing the boundaries and not conforming to what we might think people expect from us. We're just simply, from the get-go, have just been writing and releasing what we want to do and what we love and what we like to hear.
Yeah, it's a long way to go, as you're saying. It takes a lot of work, particularly from an
Mm,
outside perspective. You know, I'm in the UK, so I can only talk for the UK's perspective. But looking in towards the Australian scene, there is always a massive amount of difficulty in a band breaking out of that scene. It's associated with certain types
mm.
of music from a certain type of genre, so that obviously isolates bands to a certain degree. How do you plan to overcome the difficulty in breaking out of the Australian scene and becoming more of a worldwide name?
Um, it's not something I would say Noah and I have given much thought to be honest.
Mm,
Um, we definitely have we do work really hard, and we have ideas on, what works and what doesn't work and what bands should and shouldn't do. But in a general sense, we're definitely of the mindset of we will do our best, and basically like whatever happens happens, and everything does happen for a reason. Not to go like too spiritual or whatever, but definitely not something we put heaps of thought into. We more so, I would say, live in the moment most of the
hmm
time, and do what we think is right at that time based upon, our previous experiences. Um, and we're still so young. We've got so much to learn about music and the industry and how it all works and whatnot. Um, yeah, we definitely don't have a game plan as to how we plan to overcome those hurdles. I think working hard and believing in what we do is really important, and that's definitely the foundations of our thought process.
Well, there is a plan to a certain degree, ultimately building the core fan
Yeah,
base, building your own strengths. Conquer Australia first, then the world. You know, it's not like
exactly. Yeah,
Australia's a small place. There's a lot to do
no,
there.
yeah, exactly, definitely.
So do you have any definitive plans for the remainder of 2023 that you can either talk about or share, that you're kind of working on, thinking about doing?
We Once this EP is released, which
Yep.
is 1.5 days
All
away, really,
focus, yep.
for us in Australia. Yeah. We really hope we can get some opportunities to play shows around Australia and show people the new songs and make new fans. And we really would love to get on some supporting roles on tours to broaden our audience. But honestly, and this isn't not this is definitely not me saying there is something, but I can't talk about it. We genuinely don't have any plans right now. Um, we've, as I said earlier, we've just been focusing pretty hard on rolling out the EP and making that rollout process as smooth and as good as possible. We would have hate to have looked back and been like, we could have done more for the EP.
Mm.
So really just focusing on that. But like currently, and only since the last few weeks, have we been thinking more so about what the rest of the year is going to look like, and how we plan to achieve what we want to do, which is, as I said, is play those shows.
Mm.
But currently there are no plans, but I do hope that changes pretty soon.
It's not like nothing exciting isn't going on. All time and effort is poured
Yeah.
into Icon. As we said, it is out on the 19th of May. It's this Friday, day and a half for you, basically 2 days for me, but it's going to
Yeah.
be out soon. Okay, we reached the part of the interview now, which is the quick fire random round of 10 questions that
All
are
right.
pulled. And I mean, it is random. They can be anything about any aspect of life. It can be band, it can be nonsense, it can be serious. So I'm going to be throwing them your way.
Alrighty.
We begin with this one. Do you have any tattoos? If so, tell us a story about one. If not, would you ever get one?
Yes, I have a sleeve of tattoos on my right arm in the traditional sticker type format. A story. I would First thing that comes to mind was the very first tattoo I got, and I was very unfamiliar of the process of how it all works. I'm not sure if every tattoo artist is the same, but from what I understand, most work in a similar way. I was nagging my artist weeks in advance to see the design because I was worried. I was like, my first tattoo, I was very like nervous and of the mindset of, oh my God, this thing's going on my body forever. I was reminded of quite a few times that typically this particular tattoo artist at least draws the design the night before or the morning of, and I will see it when I get in there, and he can make changes before he starts tattooing it on me. But I was I wasn't impressed just off based upon my anxiety surrounding it. But after a few more, I learned the process, and he did the entire sleeve, so like I knew his work and I trusted him, you know, pretty soon on. But I was that really annoying nagging customer those first few times.
That's incredible. I think I feel like most people, their first tattoo is just walk in, pick something off the wall, and hope for the best. Let alone that much
Right? Okay. Yeah.
focus.
Yeah.
Okay, what is something that blows your mind whenever you think about it?
Sorry, could you say that again?
What is something that blows your mind whenever you think about it?
How big the universe is.
It's a difficult one to think about.
Don't really comprehend it, so hence why it blows my mind.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like you start to think about something like that, and you just distract yourself because it's too big, too grand to understand.
Yes, exactly. Straight over my head.
What is an unpopular opinion you have about something? Be anything.
Unpopular opinion. Damn. Oh, I'm really stumped. I feel like I want to answer like a particular album from an artist that is genuinely regarded as bad, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Unpopular opinion in Australia is shoeies are disgusting.
What was that?
You know what that is?
No.
Shoey? No? I think you might agree. Shoey is an Australian, I don't want to say tradition. Some might say it's a tradition, but it's the act of drinking beer out of a shoe.
I didn't realize that was a freaking. I know it's a thing, but I didn't realize it was a popular tradition.
It is quite popular, definitely in the Australian music scene too. I think some international artists get a shock when the crowd starts asking them to do such a thing.
Yeah, yeah. All right, each to our own.
Yeah, not my thing either, eh?
What is the best thing about being in days like these?
That would be writing music I love with my best friend.
Yeah, it's the dream. That's the dream.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, because there's no point thinking about money or success in that regard these days, so you might as well take away the most important mental health stuff more than anything else.
Totally, yeah.
What do you spend way too much time doing?
I spend way too much time doing really nitpicking like tidiness in my house.
Okay.
Meaning I will go out of my way to maybe adjust a certain object if it's like slightly not to my liking. I guess like I don't think I have OCD, but I would say that's the easiest way to describe it. And it definitely like disrupts what I was doing prior, you know?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it does. You're absolutely right. It does almost sound like OCD, like
Yeah, I would say I would say I don't. I would assume I don't suffer from OCD, but
Mm.
maybe if I went further down that track, it could be a worry, you know?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the spectrum is very, very wide, and we all fit on it somewhere or another.
Yeah.
Whether we like it or not, there's always something at home in our lives that we're a little bit OCD about.
Yeah.
If you had to describe the life of Days Like These as a movie, what movie would you choose?
Cool. What movie?
I'm
Damn, that's really tricky. Um,
trying to think of one now too.
yeah, I do enjoy movies, but like I would say I watch a decent amount of movies, but I'm struggling.
Because
Um,
you're a duo now, Thelma and Louise, but that ends poorly, so we don't want that.
give given like, occasion depending, Dumb and Dumber. If Noah and I get on a roll on something we find funny, we just go to town on it. Yeah, it can spiral into some really mind-numbing sort of humor, you know?
What's the worst piece of advice you've ever been given from someone regarding the music business?
Worst advice, did you say? Um, I feel like I feel like I I don't remember this entirely specifically, but I feel like I've had a conversation in the past about being in a young band,
Mm.
needing to gain some traction. And you know what? It could even be relation to Icon, but I feel like I've been told by someone to it is beneficial to at least somewhat stick to one sound, one style of music.
Okay. Yeah.
And their idea was based upon it's easier for someone to understand you when it's like that. And I would say there's truth somewhat in that. But it's not something that correlates with Noah and I. So for us, I would say that wasn't good advice.
When I was younger, I think I would have believed that. I would have believed that rule to a degree, and I'd have pointed out one or two bands and gone, well, look, they never really changed the sound. But these days, I mean, I look around and even the biggest bands in the world and the ones that have been around 20, 30 years have changed, mixed, experimented here and there, and still been incredibly successful from it. So I just don't buy into that line of thinking.
Yeah, totally.
What's your favorite thing to do when you're all alone?
All alone. I do enjoy watching movies.
Okay. Any particular genre you look at, or are you just wide and open? It doesn't really matter.
I'm pretty open to anything. I would say maybe I gravitate towards slightly darker films, maybe in like the psychological thriller type avenue. But I'm pretty down to watch anything. A good movie is a good movie, you know.
All right. What was the last great movie you watched?
Noah Russell and I went to watch Beau Afraid recently. And it was a lot to digest. I don't know if you've seen it. Have you?
No.
It was very wild, a lot to digest, and it was 3 hours long. But I think after I thought about it quite a bit, I think I really, really enjoyed it. It did take me that long to decide that though, because as I said, it was so much to digest. But it was from Ari Aster, the director from Hereditary and Midsommar, which are both great movies. I enjoyed them both as well. But this Beau Afraid is significantly different from those two. But I think I would call that great. Yeah, it was really cool, insanely unique.
Recommendation, yeah. Just let it sink in from what you're saying.
Yeah, you'll have to mull it over quite a bit, I think.
All right, penultimate one then, and this is a wide opinion thought more than anything else. Social media, do you see it as a force for good or as a force for evil, really?
100%, it can be both, in my opinion. I think it's what people do with it that ultimately makes it what it is. And there's lots of benefits and there's lots of negatives to social media. I think it's a great way for communication and sharing with your peers and your family and friends, and it's people who like you or whatever. But there's obviously definitely negatives where there's bullying, there's just like unreachable standards of certain things, and people not demonstrating, putting acts on in front of the camera, can be really damaging. But I do see it as both positive and negative.
It's also a necessary evil when it comes to promoting and pushing a band, of course. Do you feel like you've got a good balance of the requirement of what you need to do for the band and your use in your personal life?
Yeah. I think as you said, I think it's definitely undoubtedly a great tool, and dare I say essential to a band's growth. I would say 99% of the time in this day and age it is essential. Definitely I do find it hard to strike the balance between my personal usage with it, and a lot of that usage is to do with the band, and I know why I'm doing that. But sometimes I do get tired of how much I'm on there, or just even mainly in the band sense, like how much I have to think about what's next, what's the next post going to be. And it feels so menial, but I do understand it's important at the same time.
Are you able, though, often one of the biggest questions surrounding that is, are you able to stop and say, you know what, it's just stressing me out, I'm exhausting me, I'm going to take a day away from it to just refocus and work out what I want to do on there?
I honestly do struggle to do that when I feel like I should or feel like I need to. And it's something I would just personally like to work on with myself. I do find it a necessary evil in a band sense. It's definitely, I would say, more than 50% of the time, but there is also just in my personal life, I do think I sometimes struggle to step away from it when I think I should as well. Both sides of the coin.
Yeah, it's an incredible, as you said, it can be an incredible tool to help promote, push, and connect to audiences on a personal and a professional level around the world. But the strings attached is, well, it's all a balancing act.
Definitely, yeah, undoubtedly.
Last one, and it's simply this: what is a realistic goal that you'd like to accomplish with days like these before this year is over? It's just a realistic goal you'd like to accomplish.
Realistic goal. Playing a small headline tour off the back of the EP, I would say.
Yeah.
I think that's the next step.
It seems like the most obvious thing to do, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
It looks like it's going to be a good year. Of course, Icon. We've already said it. We'll repeat it one more time. 19th of May, this Friday, new EP is out. Check it out. It is a blast from beginning to end, with unique, and the word unique needs to be stressed here, but also, and I think you used this word earlier once, I'm going to use it now as well. Fun. That is an important aspect of this record too. Fun. Callen, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I really appreciate it.
No, pleasure's mine. It's been awesome. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for watching. If you liked what you saw, please help us out by giving us a thumbs up and hitting that subscribe button. If you really liked what you saw, consider donating to keep the website and channel running by buying us a coffee via our coffee page or picking up some merch from our Big Cartel store. You can check us out on gbhbl.com as well as via our social media, Facebook, Instagram and Twitter, as well as listen to our interviews via SoundCloud, Apple Music and Spotify. Just search for GBHBL. Games, horror and heavy metal. What else is life for?